Trump needs to win in 2024.
Yes.
We had Kash Patel on the show, and my attitude is just fire everybody. As soon as Trump wins again, just get in there and just fire everyone. You should be like, you're fired. The line he's famous for. He's just...
Well, and the press strategy should be different, too. So I was there working for John Solomon, who's hopefully going to come on with you guys soon, with Just the News. And that was the year in 2020 when we were launching. So it was the last year of the Trump presidency. And it was so hard to get in the room credentialing. So I was covering the White House for him. And because of the pandemic, the White House Correspondents Association was very dictatorial about, first of all, they're that way normally about who's allowed in the room. But because of COVID, they severely constrained who was in the room. So as a startup working for a guy who was, reporting the truth, John Solomon, during pandemic, it was really hard to get in the room. And I only got in the room because of Kayleigh McEnany allowed me in the room, myself and One American News. And from One American News, Chanel Rion, their founder, she opened my eyes to what's happening in that press briefing room. And our understanding is if Trump comes back, he's going to change the strategy of what happens in that press briefing room. Because right now, the WHA is a private nonprofit.
That's the White House Correspondents Association.
Yes.
Oh, so Alex Jones, press secretary.
Well, yeah, but as far as allowing...
Yes, she said yes.
That is not what I said. No. It was more the other way around. As far as like who's in the room to ask the president a question, because right now the WHA is a liberal, good old boys club that's been around for 100 years that is dictating to the president who's allowed on government property, and they don't allow conservatives in the room. And if you're a conservative and you try to get a seat on the board for WHA, you can't. So Chanel Rion from One American News started her own competing nonprofit, and the Trump White House, was considering recognizing that and getting more equal representation in the room. Because if you see the questions that they were asking Trump, they were not fair questions.
Right.
Like my first question that I asked Trump when I was in the White House press briefing room was, I asked him a question about what was happening with Hong Kong, and it was, Jimmy Lai had just been arrested. So I'm asking about China and Hong Kong. Chanel asked a question about Iran policy in the Middle East. And then I think it was somebody from NBC asked a question about QAnon. So it's like the supposed, conspiracy right-wing journalists are asking substantive policy questions, and then you have these other, White House Correspondents Association establishment types. They're there to make Trump look bad, and he was egged on because he thought that it would win him points, and it won points with the base. But I think it turned off the suburban women, the more middle of the road people. And so, from what I understand, that would be one thing that he would change substantially. And I think it's good.
I made a couple posts on Instagram for called the CNN Challenge, and it was, there's no real challenge. It was turn on Fox News, and then whatever the news is, switch to CNN, and they'll be talking about Trump. So I used to have CNN playing in the background all the time, because my mentality was when news breaks, they'll report it really, really quickly. And then one day I was just sitting in, I was like recording something, and then I turned the volume back up, and then I'm watching, and I'm just like, have they been talking about Trump all day? Like there was like a storm or something happened. I'm like, so I changed the channel, and it was like riots in Iran, and then I was like, wow. All right, so I'm on Fox News now. I normally don't watch Fox News. And then something else was happening. I think it was a hurricane was coming. And I turned on CNN, and they were like doing a round table about Donald Trump. And then I was just like, this is crazy. I switched to Fox News, and they're like, here's what you need to expect the upcoming storm. And I was like, I guess I'll leave Fox on.
Listen, it's in CBS. When Fox News started, Les Moonves, who was head of CBS at the time, corporate, came into the Washington, D.C. newsroom and convened us all around a conference table and said, is what's happening with Fox, this early popularity, is it real, or is it something that just crazy people are watching? And I was too young, too young to speak up, and finally understood that that's the wrong thing to do sometimes, because I used to speak up too much in bad situations where I shouldn't. I kept my mouth shut because I was fairly new. Around the table, every other journalist there said it's just a fake, stupid thing that's speaking to crazies. Meantime, I had discovered what you had as a former CNN person. I used to have CNN on in my, office all day just to see if there was breaking news, and there used to be. And when Fox came on, Fox had news before the other networks did and before CNN did, often, sometimes a couple of days before, and then the others would follow it up. So I started, being sort of the contrarian that I am, putting Fox News on in my office. And of course, that gets me pegged, I'm sure, around the newsroom instead of gee, she's smart because we're all watching one thing, but we're all supposed to be kind of gathering, breaking news. And at least one person's watching another network and learning new things. I'm sure I was pegged as sort of that crazy Fox watcher, but I saw the same thing you did, Tim.
Yep. And then I just stopped watching.
Well, a lot of people stopped watching CNN.
Well, now they're saying with the new ownership, they're going to purge all of that stuff out of CNN. That's just the death knell.
Well, also you can't. It's too. This is my opinion, my thought, and I interviewed a lot of current and former CNNers for the last book that I wrote about all of this. It's too endemic. You can try. It's sort of like Trump trying to get rid of the establishment, bureaucracy that's the deep state, you might say. You can try all you want, but they're really entrenched and strong. And the news industry, whether it's not that everybody feels the same way, but so many people in the news industry and the way they're being brought up in journalism colleges, I think that's a tough road to hoe at CNN.
I think.
Did I say road to hoe? Road to hoe. Hoe to row.
I think freedom,
I'm triggered.
meritocracy, and honesty are winning. I think you look at the collapse of the establishment press. You look at the expansion of gun rights. The narrative isn't working. Their lies are not working. A regular person will hear, we need background checks and a ban on assault weapons. But now they can Google it. And the ones who do go, hey, wait a minute, we already have background checks? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, but there's a gun show loophole. Really? What's that? Google, oh, there isn't one? That's a lie? It's a political term, not a real thing. Oh, that's weird. Well, what about assault weapons? Assault weapons have no definition. Wikipedia says assault weapon is ill-defined. It typically refers to a pistol grip or forward accessories or maybe magazine size, but there's no real definition. So when regular people they hear these things from Joe Biden, I got to tell you, is red pilling people like crazy. Yep. When he's like, a 9mm is going to blow a lung out of the body, you're going to get some regular person who's going to be like, whoa, really? I was watching a movie. What? And they're going to Google it and go, what? That's not real. What else isn't real? If Joe Biden was wrong about that, what else was he wrong about?
I think you're right. When you overplay your hands, I think the organized campaign of propagandists to try to create this artificial reality, to make fringe things seem as though they are the norm, to make the majority of people think that they are in the minority. This is what social media and the internet's been all about. People get wise, and the truth takes a little longer to be told, but the truth usually survives. It just takes more time.
Yeah, but
I think we're in that phase.
Part of it is yes, the language. Like that's why we made the Woktionary, is because the language, it's new concepts, it's new things that people aren't as familiar. And then once they understand it, they reject it. The body rejects that organ transplant. So a new one right now is the ESG. Mm-hmm. If you ask a random person on the street, what do you think about ESG? Equity, social governance for investing. They're not going to know what that means. But then if you explain what it means, which is let's use capitalism and something that should be apolitical to bludgeon and push in a socialist leftist agenda, they're going to say that's not okay. It should be apolitical. But they don't know the lingo yet. But they're waking up. And that's why you have people, creating Strive Capital. The guy who wrote Woke Inc. is starting.
What you got to do is when you go to people, talk about how ESG is good. ESG is you want to invest, and I'm not meaning this literally, no financial advice. You say, you really got to take a look at this ESG stuff. The idea is simple. Instead of merit, skill, determining whether or not a business succeeds, we are going to focus on political activism. So like, if a company is going to sell solar panels, instead of hiring engineers who have graduated with degrees, we're going to hire activists. That's going to make you a good buck. And then people are going to be like, what? How is my solar panel company going to make money if they're doing political activism and not selling solar panels? It reminds me of Iron Man. When in the first one he says, Marvel reference, Tony Stark announces they're not doing weapons anymore, and then they have that scene of Jim Cramer saying, the stock, and then he hits the mug with the baseball bat and says, this is a weapons company that doesn't sell weapons. That's what ESG is. Right. You're investing. I just got to say, I'm not going to tell anybody who to invest in. But my understanding is that the ESG companies did really, really poorly, like in terms of, return.
Well, that's a shock.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, if you want to invest in, a meat processing plant that cares more about political activism than processing meat, all right, I guess. I just got to say, I think that's one of the stupidest possible investments a single human being can make. you might as well just literally donate the money to a charity. At least then you can write it off.
Wait, hold on. You don't think that I should invest in the vegan-run meat processing plant?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Oh.
If there is a vegan-run meat processing, well, I should walk that back. What I mean to say is vegan meat plant. I thought you were saying. I thought you were saying
That's
like
an
a plant that grows meat.
No, but I mean like I thought
that's what you were saying too.
Yeah, I thought you were saying a plant that makes fake meat. I'm like, that's a good idea actually.
Look, I mean, if that were possible, yes, absolutely invest in that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give you guys bad financial advice. It wasn't financial advice, as we like to say on this show.
Well, there's a real-time example that just happened once you explain it to the average, to shareholders. So Carl Icahn is this hedge fund billionaire, and he's obsessed with the treatment of pregnant pigs. And he was trying to force McDonald's to change their practices to meet his standards, not the industry best practice standards. He said it wasn't good enough. And so he tried to force his people to be on the board of McDonald's, but thank God McDonald's just rejected it, the shareholders, and they voted, and they said, no, keep your activists off our board. They have no clue what they're talking about with actual meat processing. Not to mention, low income people, a lot of people, average people shop at McDonald's. This is going to make food more expensive for them. So you have a hedge fund billionaire trying to make food way more expensive for average people, and they rejected it.
I just want to pull up this Forbes Advisor article. It's not easy being green. Why ESG is underperforming. Why is ESG underperforming in 2022? I just want to say, if you think investing money into anti-meritocratic systems, you are a moron.
Also, because if these companies were profitable, you wouldn't have to invent something called ESG. Companies would already be doing the thing that would make them money and make them more profitable as a business. You wouldn't have to threaten them with a bad ESG score or incentivize them with a good one.
Here's the pitch. Seamus, we're taking on investors for my company.
Okay.
What do? We make pizzas.
Yes. Beautiful.
Now,
Chicago style.
Who's leading the team? Black Lives Matter.
Of course.
What?
Now, do they have experience making pizza? No. But their hearts are in the
equity.
right place.
That's
Equity.
Right. I don't want my pizza made by someone whose heart isn't in the right place.
I hope you have some women up there at the top.
Exactly.
I hope you
same.
have.
Well, hold on. What do you mean by woman?
Not hope, mandate.
Someone who identifies as a woman is good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
been
3
wondering-
6'5" dudes, but they recently transitioned. So.
Yeah.
I've been wondering why, this is kind of related, the trend we've probably all noticed in the past 10 years, which are ads on TV for products and companies that aren't telling you about their product. They're telling you what they donate and what they do. And I started asking young people, because it doesn't appeal to me. I don't buy my products based on that. Apparently young people do. I was saying,
Really?
do you care? Do you care that this company is spending money advertising to you, or would you rather have advertising to you about the good that they do in some social realm or some position they take, or would you rather just have them sell you the best product at the lowest price?
This is a good idea. We should do a commercial for Timcast and have it not in any way tell anything about the show.
Timcast. We were kind of talking about that last night.
That's
Let's
what
do
we
it.
do.
But yeah, for sure. We should.
Let's do an overly woke commercial for Timcast and we'll put it on Tucker.
1 million.
I keep saying that.
We'll
The problem is, like, we need managerial power to get these things done. Like, we want to do the Chicken City one, and we were going to do Our Pillow, and it's never happened. That's why I don't like talking about things unless we're, like, in the pipeline to do it, but projects fall apart. But let's do it.
Did you see the Saturday Night Live skit about that, about the woke commercials, and they were giving the awards for, I was shocked Saturday Night Live did this. It's very funny. The most woke
I'm
commercials.
shocked.
Yes, you got to look that up. It's very funny about
That's the
all
most
the things
shocking
that
part.
they do. Yes, find it.
I will, yeah. I can't believe SNL did something funny. Like, that's insane.
I don't believe it's funny. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.